In today's video, a review of the results of the 2020 Bikini Olympia. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com, and I did a poll on my Instagram and I said, hey, who would be interested in me doing a review of the 2020 Bikini Olympia? And the results were 97% yes. So 3% of you can turn the video off now. So what I thought I'd do is break down kind of the results. We'll specifically go into the top call out. I don't want to get too deep into the Bikini Olympia because at 40 competitors we could be here all day, but I wanted to break down the top 6 and give you guys my thoughts on what happened. Now I have a little bit of insight this year. I didn't make this video right away because I wanted to get feedback from the judges. I also got feedback on the people that placed well, didn't place well, along with my client Deraja Hill, who finished in 14th place at her first Olympia in what was, I think, her 5th or 6th pro show ever. So lots to discuss there, but I'll stick to this one, just reviewing the kind of the top call out and the top 10 of the Bikini Olympia. So this year's Bikini Olympia was, in my mind, the best class that has ever been on stage. You had 3 returning Bikini Olympia champions. You had Ashley Kaltwasser, who won it in 13, 14, and 15, and after coming back, has been in the top call out the last couple years. She actually didn't make the top call out this year. That tells you just how tough this show would be. Now, there was only 6 girls in that top call out. You had the returning champion, Isa, in the top call out. You had Angelica Teixeira, the 2-time champion, who got 3rd last year, and she got 2nd at the Arnold to Isa. So you knew she was going to be in the mix, and she was on, in my mind. You also had the Canadians. You had Janet, Layug, and you also had Attila. Now, the Canadians have been working their way up for a while. Lauralie Chapados, this is her 3rd Olympia. At her debut of the Olympia, she got 2nd. Well, this year, she dropped down to 5th. Meanwhile, Jennifer Dorie moved up to 2nd. So a lot has been moving around in the bikini division, and I know sometimes it can seem like a very similar top 5, top 6, top 10, but I promise you, there has been a ton of change at the top of this sport when you consider that only a few years ago at her debut, Isa was 9th at the Olympia and worked her way up to winning last year. So let's start with the champion, okay? Because everybody bases this show on the returning champion. Now, I bumped into Isa in the elevator at the Amateur Olympia Monday before the Olympia, and I thought, wow, she looked big. Now, she was wearing some bike shorts and she was wearing her jacket, but I just thought she looked big and very muscular. But looking at her stage pictures and seeing her walk out on stage, I don't think she was able to get into her typical condition. And she ended up in 6th place, but she was in that first call out. Was the first call out justified? I think it was a matter of respect. I think the fact that if she had showed up like this previously to being a champion, she might not have been in that first call out. But in my mind, she was just quite a bit bigger, a little bit more muscle, and not quite as lean as she has been in the past. Usually her trademark is her crazy tight core, right? And it gives her that crazy shape, and that was not there this year. All right, so she finished in 6th place. In 5th place was someone who I think a lot of us think could win the Olympia at any time, and that is Lauralie Chapados, who got 2nd at her first ever Olympia 2 years ago. She dropped a couple spots last year, and this year dropped a little bit further into the 5th place spot, and she actually had a couple judges had her in 6th place. If you look at the scores, she got 27, which means she potentially had 2 judges had her in 6th, and 3 judges had Isa in 6th. So it was very close between those 2 for the 5th and 6th spot. So why was Lauralie moved out of middle? You know, in my opinion, I thought she is always going to be one of the most beautiful girls on stage, but I think her upper body does not match her lower. And so what I've really noticed the trend in bikini over the last couple of years is they're really focusing on balance. For a few years, there was a lot of glute development, but it wasn't matched with upper body development. The division was all about beauty and glutes. And now you have a new division, wellness, where girls with really overpowering lower bodies have a place to compete. And the thing that I've noticed since the first national show of the year, the NPC Junior USA's, is that they're really focusing on the girls having shoulders that match the glutes. Now, a lot of these girls are my personal friends. I actually trained with Lauralie Thursday, not with her, but at the same time, me and Deraja were in the gym, she was in the gym. And so I even commented to Deraja, I was like, I think her upper body looks a little bit thin, but I didn't know it was Thursday, how she was going to fill out, how she was going to peak. But I think in sticking with my thoughts of that day, that's the reason that she moved immediately outside. Okay, so when you had the prejudging, and I do have some video here for you guys, because I had a pretty good vantage point for prejudging. You know, I got there early. I wanted to make sure my girl Deraja and I were on the same page. I wanted to really see what was going on there. So I got a good seat, and what I noticed was when I started filming, they immediately put Janet and Angelica in center. So when Sandy does that, Sandy Williamson is the head judge, you know that she has seen something, because what happens in prejudging is they bring the girls out in groups. In the group comparison this year, they brought out 7 girls at a time. So 7 girls, they're looking them over. This is really where they determine who is going to be in that first call out. So after the group comparisons, everyone gets an individual routine. Now, from what I've been told from the judges, the individual routine is basically where they're double checking to confirm first call outs. They're looking for flaws. They're looking for reasons that maybe they don't fit the first call out, okay? After that, they put everybody on the line, everybody is waiting, and then they do the anticipated call outs. Now that first call out, they certainly had all the girls in the first call out that they wanted, but they immediately moved Angelica and Janet to center. Now, what did I see from Angelica? Well, obviously she brought her A game to the Arnold, and I saw, now the lighting in this venue, the prejudging was in a different venue than the finals. So you'll see in the video here, the lighting in my mind was not that great. However, you have to remember that the judges are literally a few feet away from these competitors looking up at them. They see things we cannot see. They see skin flaws, they see makeup flaws, they see hair flaws, they see shape and structure from a little different perspective, because they're looking up, where most of us are looking straight at them, or we're watching the live feed. If you guys streamed it, and that camera was actually looking down at the competitors, right? So a little bit of a different perspective. So when they ended prejudging, they had Janet and they had Angelica splitting center. In the 3-4, they had Attila and they had Jennifer Dory. And in the 5-6, they had Isa, the former champion, and Lauralie, okay? So that's how the initial call out ended. So what did they do at the end of prejudging? Well, at the end of prejudging, they brought the top 6 back out again, okay? So when they brought the top 6 back out again, what they did was they lined them up the same way. They had Janet and Angelica in the 1-2. However, they began to move everyone but Janet. Janet held center while they moved Attila. They moved Jennifer into that 2 position. They were trying to figure out who was number 2. Was it going to be Angelica? Was it going to be Jennifer? Was it going to be Attila? But at the end of prejudging, they ended up with Jennifer in the 2 position. So that kind of told me that Janet was going to win. Now, I kind of picked Janet to be my winner last year. Janet's someone who has been second at the Olympia multiple times. In fact, I tried to do some research, and I believe she debuted at the Olympia in, what was it, 2014. It's on the screen here, taking second to Ashley Kaltwasser, who won in 13, 14, and 15. So she had been very high up in this in this class for the last few years, and in fact in 2018 had taken second and then won the Arnold in 19, so I felt she was taking that step forward. However, this year when she came out on stage, what I noticed was fuller upper body. Her shoulders seemed to improve. Glutes were fuller, bigger and tighter. Core extremely tight. Her abs were very, very flat. Okay, that doesn't mean she had a well-developed six-pack. That just meant that they were very flat. And this is something they're really paying attention to. They want the tight core, and they want to see upper and lower development that matches. And one thing about Janet, you can't deny the beauty. You can't deny the shape. She just has a wonderful balance and is a perfect example of the bikini division. And a lot of people began to ask me, like, do you feel that they are changing the standards of the bikini division? Is this something that they were looking for? Now, first of all, a lot of these girls are my friends, so I'm going to give you guys opinions based on this, but it has nothing to do with them as people. They are wonderful people. I've had conversations with just about everybody, and I've gotten to know the girls in the bikini division over the last few years, and I will say there was an immense camaraderie amongst these competitors. They all understand how difficult it is. The judges' decisions are very difficult, and so what I've seen backstage has just made me feel so good about the bikini division, about being professionals. And so what I'm talking about now are what the judges are picking apart, okay? They're picking them apart based on the criteria of the division. Why was Isa in the 6th position? I feel like she came in with too much muscle and she was not as conditioned as she was the year prior. Why was Lauralie in the 5th position? Listen, 5th in the world, that's still amazing. Her waist, it might be the tiniest up there. Glutes were flawless. I thought she looked very good. She's always going to be one of the more gorgeous girls on stage, but I felt her upper and lower just weren't matching. Her upper body was not as filled out as her lower, okay? Is that something where it's muscle? Is it peaking? I don't know, but when we're talking about those 4 or 5 minutes on stage in the first call out, they're making very good decisions because they're very close. So you have to trust that the judges know what they're doing, okay? I, as a coach, have gotten to know these judges and I know their job is very hard, but I also trust the decisions that they make. And when I go over, a client's pictures with someone like Sandy, with someone like Tyler, or one of these other Olympia judges, Becky Clausen has been doing a wonderful job of this. You actually can see, okay, this is what we're looking at, this is what we're seeing, and it really clears the picture up. And I know sometimes when we're watching, it can be tough to see. So, in the 4th position, Angelica, why did she drop from 2nd, potentially 1st, in that initial call out to 4th? I don't know. I thought her conditioning was very good, but I do feel like her lower body might be a little more developed than her upper, okay? And when she was winning the Olympia a couple years ago, perhaps this was still acceptable, but perhaps now they're looking for more balance. Now, Attila in the 3rd position, okay? Again, a stunningly beautiful woman. She's built, like, her structure is flawless. I was there at the New York Pro when she won this year. I didn't think her conditioning was good enough to win at that show. Seeing it in person, well, her conditioning at the Olympia was fantastic. Her shape was there. I think her development doesn't quite match the 2 girls that placed ahead of her, but the bikini division is certainly going to be looking at Attila over the years ahead as a potential champion of any show that she enters, including the Arnold and the Olympia. Then we get to Jennifer Dorie, who this year won the Tampa Pro. That was actually her first pro victory, but that's simply because Jennifer Dorie has been jumping into enormous shows. She has not done small shows. All the shows that she's competed in have been very high level. So her first pro victory being the Tampa, I gotta say, she improved. I thought her balance was fantastic. Her muscle, her shape, everything from head to toe on her was flawless, and I think that's why she was able to move ahead of both Attila and Angelica, because she did not start out in the 1 or 2 position. She started out in the 3 or 4, but ended in the 1 or 2 position, okay? So I think she did because of her balance. Her structure is very good, but as is the structure of all those girls up there. Their beauty, it's all flawless. So what they saw in Jennifer was, in my mind, the balance from top to bottom. However, Janet was just on. And sometimes you watch these shows in person and you see someone walk out and you just go, wow. And I said that about Janet, and I was at the Arnold this year, and when she came out, I thought, uh-oh, Janet is not on, okay? And she suffered. She dropped a few placings at the Arnold from the Olympia, okay? Angelica leapfrogged her. Isa still won. So I saw Janet slipping, and I think a lot of people get caught up in the momentum of this sport and think, oh, well, Janet, that's it. She's going to take a downslide. Well, I can tell you this, at least for my competitor, Deraja, who had done the Arnold as well, having those few extra months was very beneficial. And maybe that's the case for Janet. Maybe she was able to keep and build more muscle, have more time to diet, but she came in on. And I can tell you, with the naked eye test, when you're watching the show, when girls walk out across that stage, you just go, wow, that girl's on. Janet was on. And when Janet is on, she's always going to be a lot to handle. And I think the chink in her armor in the past was that maybe her upper body didn't match her lower. And then I think early on her glutes weren't as good as Ashley Kaltwasser's. Well, now everything is there. She is the complete package. She is the champion now. She is the standard of the division. But the standards of the division did not change. Ashley Kaltwasser getting 7th place and not being in that first call out, it doesn't mark a change in the sport. It just means that the sport on this day she was not as good as those top 6. Does that mean she can't be top 6 again? Heck no. Listen, Ashley Kaltwasser is a champion. What more surprised me was someone like Jen Ronziti not being in that top call-out after winning the Arizona Pro, after being as high as 2nd in the Olympia, and seeing her not get that top call-out. That was something that was surprising to me, because you have a lot of girls that are coming to the show not just to show up. They are coming to be in that first call-out and work their way in and become champions. The champion of the show has changed for 3 years in a row. And are you betting that Janet's going to hold on to the title for another year? Listen, I'm not saying she can't, but I am saying that there's a lot of potential for turnover in this division. The top 5, the top 6, the top 10 is always changing, okay? Issa a few years ago debuted at number 9, then worked herself in the top 5, and then leapfrogged everybody and won, okay? That's progress, and this sport is changing because progress, okay? So what do I think of the results? I think they got it right. When I was watching the show, I thought Janet was the clear winner. Do I think Jennifer should have been 2nd, or do I think Attila? You know, I think Jennifer. You know, in my mind, she was the better of those two. I thought Angelica looked great. I thought she could have been 2nd as well. I don't know what her feedback is going to be, but I feel like they saw something. I feel like something was off with her when they came for that 2nd round of judging, and they moved her out because they never brought her back in. They only compared Jennifer and Attila, I believe, to Janet. But Janet never left the middle. And I've been to a lot of shows, coached a lot of shows, and when I see that, when I see one girl hold center and they're constantly moving somebody in, it tells me they're trying to figure out who's in 2nd place. And that was the case for Janet. So my review of the Olympia, well, listen, it was amazing an event to be at. I truly feel blessed to be able to coach someone that competed in this event. And, you know, we've already spoken to the judges, and Deraja and I are going to be back and better. You know, this was her Olympia debut. But we're going to see what the landscape of the bikini division has to offer in the years ahead. And I'm really excited to get more girls on this stage. It just inspired me to work harder, do more. And yeah, seeing those girls in the top 10, you know, shout out to my girl Jasmine Gonzalez, who is Deraja's posing coach, on getting into that top 10. That was an amazing accomplishment. And it's just exciting for me to see all the work of the Olympia happen, because for a while there was a chance that it wasn't going to happen. And it also came to Florida. I got to drive over to the show, and, you know, it was an hour and a half away instead of having to fly to Vegas. So yeah, I think they got it right. I think the fact that the show was moved back from September to December did a lot of good for a lot of these girls to take a little bit more time off. I think the fact that there's no pro shows until April, I think that's a good sign. I think the girls are going to have a little bit of a break. They're not jumping right back into prep, because in a normal year, they would be starting prep for the Arnold right about now. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you have any questions, comments, or deep thoughts or things I missed, please leave it in the comments below. I'd love to start a discussion on this stuff. You know, the bikini division is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. Had a lot of girls turn pro this year, and you know what that means. A lot of girls are in prep right now to get on that Olympia stage this year, and I know we're gonna have a few next year. Okay, talk to you guys soon. Bye.